Okay, today we're going to be talking about cover letters. We're going to have a little introduction to making an introduction, what they are, and how to write them. So first you may wonder what a cover letter even is. Sometimes, like in this class, you'll write a formal paper cover letter that you'll address and their address and a signature and everything. But increasingly, you'll be submitting your resume online. You may send an email with an attached resume, or you may apply using an online system. Cover letters can be as simple as a few lines, or they can be a few bulky paragraphs, but they're almost never more than one single page. This year, when I was looking for a babysitter for baby girl, I had applicants who sent me a message introducing themselves, just through a texting system. And even that is like a cover letter. I like to tell students that the resume is what you've done, and the cover letter is about who you are. You show a potential employer that you're professional and focused through the language, grammar, and good formatting you use. I once sat in a hiring committee where an applicant was rejected because he had contractions in his cover letter. That's a little bit extreme, but depending on the business culture where you're applying, people may have a strict idea of what they're looking for in a colleague. You can also use a cover letter to emphasize a little bit about your experience. For example, I once had a student who was applying for a job as an assistant in a chiropractor's office, even though all of his experience was in sales. So, because his resume mostly had sales jobs, he explained in his cover letter that sales had taught him to work with a diverse group of people, keep careful records, and be outcomes driven. All great skills for a chiropractor's assistant. By framing his experience in his cover letter, his resume looked like it was a more appropriate fit. Okay, now you have a sense of what the cover letter is and why it is an important part of the job packet. Let's talk about how to write a cover letter, including three main parts, the same parts you'll see in any product or advertising. In this case, the ad is for you. The first paragraph of a cover letter should include some basic information right up front. Many students make the mistake of saying that they are applying for the job at your company. That's not helpful when the company may have many jobs open in different departments. Tell them which job. That way, they know who to include in looking at your job materials, and it gives them context for how your resume fits in with the job you're applying for. When I was looking for a babysitter, I got many generic messages from applicants who didn't seem to read our job description. Let them know that you've read the job description and that you're a good fit for that specific job. Because each application is a little different, here are some examples. In the first, they mention the magazine where the job was posted, and in the second, the job was found online. This can help the potential employer know where you learned about them. It's also appropriate to tell them if you learned about the job from someone inside the company. You might say something like, "My brother-in-law, Henry Lawson, has enjoyed working for your company in accounting and alerted me to the opening in your HR department." This paragraph in the introduction usually includes some form of sentence where you tell them why you are a good fit for this job. And that is a good lead into the next paragraph. This section can be one or two paragraphs, but it's seldom longer than that. This is where you provide all the evidence that you are a good fit for the job. This section doesn't just restate everything in your resume, that would be redundant, but it explains the resume and highlights a few points. In this example, I suspect that this applicant has fundraising committee representative listed on their resume, but here they can explain just how big of a deal that position is. This example also lists some of the personal attributes the applicant has: motivated, responsible, reliable, able to multitask, and manage time well. These so-called soft skills would be difficult to put in a resume. Can you imagine saying that you're motivated and reliable? But the cover letter emphasizes these personal attributes more. Finally, though this example doesn't do it, the cover letter is a place where you can explain anything in your resume that may make a potential employer concerned. For example, think about the chiropractor's assistant position and how that student had to emphasize that his skills in sales were applicable. Another example, if you have a 5-year gap in your employment history, you might explain that you took time off to stay with your kids. That way, the employer knows that you didn't just become a ski bum, but were working hard in something else. And even if you did become a ski bum for those 5 years gap, you could explain how being a ski bum taught you skills that would make you a good applicant for the job. In short, it can just explain any sort of misconnect or confusion that could be in your resume. Finally, the last section, assume that your first 2 sections were successful. You told them who you were and the job you were applying for, and then you were able to convince them that you really are the best candidate because of your characteristics and experience. And the final step in the cover letter is to direct them to your resume and contact information. You can see how the first example tells the reader to check out their resume. This is a pretty standard move at the end of a cover letter, as is the second example's inclusion of a contact number. Even if you've already have your phone number listed in your cover letter, you can include it at the end so your potential employers don't have to seek for it. The second example does another common move, gives a time frame to the reader. Let them know when you're available or if and when you'll be contacting them. So those 3 parts, inform, persuade, and direct, are pretty universal in cover letters, whether you're writing an email, sending a message through a digital portal, or writing a formal letter. Because you might not be familiar with a formal business letter, the next section is going to discuss some of the characteristics of that form. For many of you, the cover letter will be the only formal business letter you ever write, but it's a very important one. In the formal business letter, you include the contact information for you and the person you're writing to. Including your contact's information will give them multiple ways for them to get a hold of you. You may choose to format your contact information like the header for your resume, as Alice Ross does down here in this example. The only other important thing to point out here is that you address this letter to one person, ideally by name. So do some research into who's the person who's going to be hiring you. For example, you might say, "Dear Jane Smith." If you don't know the name of your reader, you may choose to make your salutation to the position, at least, who will be hiring you, like "Dear Hiring Manager" or "Dear Search Committee." At the end of the letter, whether you're writing an email or a formal letter, you'll sign off with something like "best wishes" or "regards" and your name. In a written letter, though, you'll want to leave this little space, here's this white space here, before typing your name, because you'll be signing the letter, like with an actual pen. You may ask, why type out my name if I'm signing my name anyway? Well, you want them to be able to read it, too. Okay, now you're familiar with the basics of the cover letter. You're prepared to write your own, right? As always, let me know if you have questions, and don't hesitate to take advantage of the Writing Center, your groups, or other resources, because everybody here wants you to succeed. All right, good luck.